SpaceX is building another starbase in Florida. This might come as a surprise to many, since the company already has a starbase in Texas, where it is testing and launching its Starship and Super Heavy rockets. However, the Florida starbase is set to be the biggest one yet, surpassing the one in Texas by far, and get Elon Musk closer to his goal of colonizing the moon. So what makes this new starbase so special? Join us as we discuss an overview of SpaceX's Starship project in Florida and how it could change the future of space travel and transportation. Starbase, located in South Texas, is an incredible spaceport and home to SpaceX's cutting-edge Starship rocket factory and launch pads. It's known as the gateway to Mars in the space community and has big plans to send missions to Mars in the next 10 years. But they're not stopping there. They're expanding to Florida, and it seems like nothing can stand in their way. The Starship launcher is a beast, capable of carrying over 100 metric tons of stuff to low Earth orbit, which is a few hundred miles above our planet, as SpaceX tells us. It's located at NASA's Kennedy Space Center, specifically at Launch Complex 39A. SpaceX has been thinking about building a Starship launch site there for quite some time. They gave it a try in late 2019, but changed their minds and focused on building prototypes for Starship and a different kind of launch pad. This Florida launch pad is expected to look a lot like the tower they put up last year at Boca Chica Beach in Texas. That's where SpaceX plans to launch the Super Heavy booster and Starship rocket for their first orbital test flight. According to Elon Musk, the big boss of SpaceX, they'll likely use Florida for operational Super Heavy and Starship missions. The new launch pad tower at Pad 39A is about 1,000 feet, or 300 meters, east of where SpaceX launches their Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets, which carry satellites and astronauts into space. The new launch pad tower being built at Pad 39A is quite close, about 1,000 feet, or 300 meters, to where SpaceX launches their Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets. These rockets carry important stuff like satellites and astronauts into space. This is a revolutionary concept that could drastically reduce the cost and time of launching and reusing rockets, and it could also enable SpaceX to launch multiple Starship missions in a single day. Now, in just 13 months, SpaceX has accomplished a ton of work here. They've laid the foundations, made changes to one of Pad 39A's big tanks to hold super cold methane, put in lots of pipes, built a second tower for launching Starship. It's as tall as a skyscraper. Set up the legs for the pad's orbital launch mount, installed a water system that can spray water at the base of the launch mount, made most of the donut-shaped mount somewhere else and brought it in, built a super big storage tank, and brought in a bunch of smaller tanks. SpaceX has gone all out in building these massive steel arms, which they've named chopsticks. They've brought these colossal arms over to Pad 39A, attached them to a wheeled carriage, and placed the whole structure on Starship's launch tower in Florida. These chopsticks are super important because they're part of what Elon Musk, the CEO of SpaceX, calls Mechazilla. Mechazilla is like a big, powerful robot that includes the launch tower and the arms, and does some incredible tasks. It's designed to grab, lift, stack, and fuel both parts of the Starship rocket. The simplest part of Mechazilla is a third arm that stands upright but can swing from side to side. This swing arm has all sorts of important stuff, like pipes and a special device that connects to the top part of Starship. It supplies fuel, gas, power, and connections to make everything work smoothly. But these towers' chopsticks are way more complicated. They're connected to the arms with giant hinges, and they have a carriage that grips onto 3 of the tower's 4 legs, using a dozen skate-like attachments. These skates have wheels, so the carriage can roll up and down tracks built into the tower's legs. The carriage also carries some high-tech hydraulic systems that make the bus-sized arms move. It's connected to a heavy-duty draw works with steel cables that can lift this multi-hundred-ton assembly up and down the tower. When it's all set up, these arms on the Florida tower will be able to lift, move, stack, and unstack Starship and Super Heavy rockets, even if it's a bit windy. And here's the interesting part. Someday, SpaceX might even try to use these towers and chopsticks to catch Starships and Super Heavies right out of the air, which would make reusing them much faster. That's some seriously impressive technology and engineering at work. You might be wondering how the Florida Starbase will differ from the one in Texas. Well, it's going to be bigger and better. For now, it seems like the work on the Florida Starship is progressing at a similar pace to the one in Texas. SpaceX began putting together the fourth section of the Florida Tower about 30 days after starting the first one, while in Starbase it took around 25 days to reach the same point. But there's a slight difference in their approach at Pad 39A. In addition to assembling the tower sections, SpaceX is also building 4 sets of small concrete foundations and steel frames for each tower section in Florida. This suggests that they might be trying to prefabricate most of Starship's Florida launch tower before they put the sections together. This approach is different from Starbase in Texas, where SpaceX typically built just 2 or 3 tower sections at a time before moving them into place. Although this was efficient, it meant that workers had to spend months adding plumbing, wiring, extra structure, and more to the tower afterward. It seems like SpaceX has decided that it's better to do as much of that work as possible before assembling the tower. This might mean that each section in Florida spends more time on the ground, but it could be a smart move, especially considering the challenges of working on an active, one-of-a-kind launch pad like LC-39A. SpaceX probably wants to complete as much work as possible before putting Starship pad hardware in the line of fire. It's all about making the process as efficient and safe as possible. Now here's a big difference. Florida's pad will support NASA missions, like sending astronauts to the moon with the Artemis program, as well as other government and business projects. Texas, on the other hand, will mainly handle commercial stuff like launching Starlink satellites and serving private space customers, along with SpaceX's interplanetary plans. Florida's launch facilities are pretty big, covering lots of ground at Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Texas Starbase is more compact because they don't have as much space to work with. Also, both places have similar ground systems and towers, including a cool chopstick arm system that catches the super heavy booster when it comes back to Earth. Florida's system is like Texas, but it's been upgraded. To sum it up, both spots are super important for SpaceX, but Florida's LC-39A is a special launch site with a history and existing stuff in place. Meanwhile, Texas Starbase is all about building and launching the new Starship rocket for the future. Speaking about the future, SpaceX, what programs will be happening in this Florida pad? Well, SpaceX is gearing up to launch its amazing Starship rocket from there. Starship is like a super spaceship that can go to the moon and Mars, carrying people and cargoes. The pad is also going to support NASA's big missions like Artemis, which will send astronauts back to the moon. And it's not just NASA. There will be all kinds of missions from businesses and government projects happening there too. Speaking of launches, mark your calendar for October 12th. On that day, SpaceX is sending a powerful Falcon Heavy rocket for NASA's Psyche probe. This mission is going on a journey to visit an asteroid called 16 Psyche. The mission is led by Arizona State University, with NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, taking care of the mission management and operations. So there's a lot happening at the Florida pad, and it's like the starting point for some amazing space journeys. Now, on September 29, 2023, SpaceX sent 22 Starlink satellites into orbit from Florida. This launch marked SpaceX's 69th orbital mission of the year and the 10th time they've flown the Falcon 9 first stage booster. It's like they're setting new records up there in the skies. But SpaceX's impact in Florida goes beyond rocket launches. They've been a boost for the local economy, employing hundreds of workers and supporting nearby businesses. Plus, they've brought a lot of attention to space exploration in the region, giving new life to the Kennedy Space Center. It's like a space renaissance, and it's making Florida's space scene more exciting than ever. What do you think about the Florida project? Let us know in the comment section.